What is up, everyone? If you're living under a rock, we have a new set coming out for MTG and, MTG Arena, the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So today we're going to have a special video talking about some of the cool spoilers that are coming out pretty soon. Alrighty, folks. So before we get into these spoilers and cool cards coming up in Lost Caverns of Ixalan, just a small announcement. We do have the Streamer Early Access event again coming up pretty soon, actually. It's on the 9th and 10th of November. So, less than 10 days away. I will be in that event. I will be recording a lot of cool brews, and I'll be sure to post a lot of my brews onto Twitter before that happens. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned to my Twitter and to this channel, and yeah, we'll have some fun on there. But yeah, let's get into some of the new cards. The new set is interesting. I would say that overall the power level doesn't seem that high, but there are a few cards which might be good enough in standard. And all of the cards are very unique, I would say, very unique. Not necessarily good, but have some interesting flavor, interesting mechanics. So yeah, let's get to it, and I'll give a little bit of a spiel at the end, I think, about some of my opinions. But yeah, let's look at some of the cool cards. So we're not doing this in any particular order this time, because not everything's revealed. So I'm just talking about some of the cards that look cool. So first of all, we have Ojer Pakpatik. This is one of the mythic blue cards. It's 4 mana for a 4/3 flying, which is pretty decent for a blue creature. Whenever you cast an instance spell from your hand, it gets rebound. So rebound is at the beginning of your next upkeep, you get to cast the spell again without paying its mana cost. So it's a really strong ability when you use the right cards. So something that draws you cards, you would want to rebound. Something that removes a creature, you would want to rebound. Something that maybe makes the opponent discard, you'd want to rebound. Those kind of things. Counterspells doesn't really work. So you'd probably put this in like a blue-black deck with removal, with some draw, maybe with some discard, something like that, so that you can rebound those types of effects. Could do it in a blue-white blink type effect as well, if you had a lot of creatures that you want to blink, but yeah, it'd be really deck dependent. But either way, 4 mana for a decent static creature, good ability, and it doesn't stop there. So it's got a little bit more text. When Ojer dies, return it to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control with 3 time counters on it. And it turns into a land which taps for blue. And whenever you use the land, it removes one of the time counters. So it has 3. So every time you use it, after 3 turns, it's going to have no more time counters on it. And then you can pay 3 and tap to transform it back into the creature, but only if it has no time counters on it and only as a sorcery. So basically, it's a creature that keeps coming back. It turns into a land when it dies. So even if the opponent kills it right away, you basically ramp. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I really don't see a downside here. Maybe there's something you could do with time counters in some weird deck, but probably not in standard. But yeah, overall, creature, really good rebound ability, duplicates your spells, and kind of comes back over and over again. I think it'd be really great in some sort of control shell, so yeah, maybe it's good enough to make blue-black control a thing. You have this as kind of your top end. You get to double all your removal spells, which in this new world of everything has value when it enters, you kind of need your removal to do a lot, so it looks pretty nice to me. I'll just say that. It looks pretty nice. So I'm excited for this one. I think it's pretty good. One comment I will say about the new set, they have a lot of really tricky names. I know Ixalan is kind of based off of like the Aztec lore. But Ixalan is kind of its own plane with the dinosaurs and vampires and things like that. So I don't know. I guess it's fine. It's fine. It's just a little bit they decided to kind of go with a new naming scheme for Ixalan, which is a little bit tricky for me. But let me know what you think. I guess if you're a Spanish native, maybe you really like this. I'm not sure, but yeah, let me know what you think. All right, the next one, a Klazot. A Klazot. See, another one of those tricky names. Deepest Betrayal. This is a 3 black for a 4/4 flying with lifelink. It's a bat god. So another one of the gods. All the gods are the ones that turn into the lands when they die. This one, whenever it attacks, each opponent discards a card. And for each opponent who can't, you draw a card. So even if they can't discard, you still get to draw. So pretty, good attack ability on there. And whenever opponent discards a land, so even if they don't discard something valuable, they just discard a land, you get a 1/1 black creature token with flying. And then as we know, when it dies, it turns into a land, and you can transform it back, but only if the opponent has 1 or fewer cards in their hand and only has a sorcery. So this card, I guess you'd want to make like a discard type of deck, because you can still get the discard trigger on a different card, discarding the opponent's cards. And also to flip it back into the creature, you're going to need to make the opponent have a few cards in their hands. It is a very conditional card, but I think in the right shell, it could be very good. And again, it's a god creature, so it keeps coming back. Worst case scenario, you play it, you get a land out of it. That could flip into a creature later in the game. So definitely not as good as the blue one, but I still think it has a lot of potential because it's got a lot of value just on, like, just if it just sits there on the battlefield, it still has some value. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. The other gods for me were not that great, so I think the blue is definitely the best one, and then the black is probably second best, maybe tied for second best with one of the other ones. But yeah, I didn't really think the green one was good. I didn't really think the white one was that good. So yeah, these are my 2 picks for the best gods. All right, let's keep going. We got a lot to go through. Probably we'll have to break this up into a couple videos because there's just too many cards to talk about. Next card, Resplendent Angel. This is a reprint, 1 and a white for a 3/3 flying creature. Says when at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 5 or more life, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. And for 6 mana, you can turn this into a 5/5 flying lifelinker for the till end of turn. So this card was, very good in standard. It was even historic playable for a really long time. Historic Angels was a thing for a while, and this card was crucial in that deck. The fact that it can turn itself on late game is very good. But even if you have some other effect that gains you some life, often you can get your angels for free. So it's a good card, but of course standard is very fast and aggressive now. So possible that this is just a little bit too slow in the current standard. But I still think it's a very good card, and if you tie it with some other life gain effects, then it could potentially be a thing. So we'll have to see if there's enough life gain in standard to make this work, but the card is a strong card that sees play in older formats. Next one, Enigma Jewel. So this is a 1 mana legendary artifact, which is kind of cool. 1 mana artifacts are useful in a lot of decks. We have a lot of counter spells that care about that, so that is nice. The fact that it's tapped is a little bit sad, but yeah, let's read what it does. So for a tap ability, add 2 colorless mana, but spend this only to activate abilities. So this kind of ties into they were trying to push some activated ability tribal kind of thing in the March of the Machine Aftermath set. So this kind of ties into that, gives you some more ways to get your activated abilities for cheaper. I feel like we don't have enough payoffs for activated abilities to really make it good, but this is definitely, pushing that archetype a little bit more. It has its own ability, craft with 4 or more non-lands when with activated ability. So if you have enough activated ability creatures on the battlefield, you can activate this craft ability. And what does it do when it flips? The enchantment, Locus of Enlightenment has each activated ability of all the exile cards you use to craft it, and you may activate each of those abilities only once each turn. Whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, copy it, and you may choose new targets. So let's say you have like a Fairy Mastermind or some random other things with activated abilities, you can exile them. Now this legendary artifact has Fairy Mastermind's ability. and whenever you use it, it does it twice. So kind of duplicates all of your activated abilities. And I would say artifacts are a little bit harder to destroy. So, you know, potentially you could turn in some of your creatures and maybe enchantments into an artifact that has all of those abilities. Um, it's good and bad. Artifact hard to destroy, but also if they blow it up, you kind of lost 4 for 1. So that's a little bit bad there. I think you'd really want to find some sort of combo deck. Like, there's like the blue cauldron deck right now where you can kind of make infinite mana. So potentially you could do the same thing with this. Have it tapping and untapping to get infinite mana. Um, so yeah, maybe that's the way to go. It already does have kind of a mana generation in itself for active abilities, so that's probably what you want to do is somehow make some combo deck with this to get infinite mana. Yeah, let's see if it's good or not. It's got some potential to do something scary, but we'll have to see. And that was kind of another one of those things. It's like, it's a cool effect. Is it good? Really hard to say. Standard is so aggressive right now that it's hard to say. All right, next one, Bloodletter of Aclazats. This is a 1 black, 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 so probably mostly in mono black or maybe like Rakdos. It's a flying creature, 2/4, vampire demon. Whenever an opponent would lose life during your turn, that's key. I missed that the first time I read it, but they would lose twice that much life instead. So basically, it doubles all of your attacking creatures' damage. So even in just like a mono black aggro deck, could be good enough because it's kind of like a Torbrand we had before, which would like double the red, or not double, but increase the amount of damage that the red cards were doing. So this one doubles all the damage that they do. It also works for any other life loss ability. So if you have some spells that drain the opponent, they lose a life or something like that. This would also double that. So there's probably some legacy shenanigan things you could do with this, but it might be too slow for the older formats. I think mostly it's going to be a top end for like a mono black aggro deck, and seems decent. Seems pretty decent. Like it does what you'd want it to do. Just doubles your damage, so you could kind of win out of nowhere. Alrighty. Next one, Inti Sun's Caretaker. 1 in a red, legendary creature, human knight. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature. And that creature gains trample. So it's kind of like an anthem for your attacking creatures for 2 mana. You discard cards to put counters on them and give them trample. You don't draw the cards, so you will lose cards to do this effect. But whenever you discard 1 or more cards, exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card until the end of your next end step. So, kind of, you'll want to play this maybe like turn 4, turn 5, most likely, and you swing in with a couple creatures. You discard stuff, but you get to play the next 2 cards off the top of your deck. Maybe you get a land, maybe you get a cheap creature if your deck is aggressive. So you kind of make up for discarding, and you put the pressure on the opponent. And then the next turn, it's really good if it sticks around 1 turn because you haven't spent any mana. So, you know, you kind of will for sure get to play whatever's on the top of your deck. So yeah, it's interesting. Again, we already have pretty good aggressive red decks. Does this need to go in there? Not sure. It is a pretty good boost of damage for your creatures, and it's permanent because it's a counter, and it gives trample. So I think it's probably good enough, but very situational, and you don't want to just jam it on turn 2 in most situations. Yeah, all right, so that's that one. And then the next one, Subterranean Schooner. This is I mostly put it because it's just a pretty good on-rate vehicle. 2 mana, 3/4, crew of 1. Crew 1 is always very good. 3/4 stats for 2 mana is pretty good, especially in blue. And then whenever the schooner attacks, target creature that crewed it explores. So You know, even if they like kill your schooner, the crewing creature gets bigger. So yeah, it seems pretty good. You know, I don't know. Again, it might be too slow for standard. Uh, if this was like a year ago, this card would probably be a playable card and pretty good. But now we're in the power crept world, so maybe not. Maybe not. But we'll see. Explorer is usually better than it seems, so I would say don't underestimate it. I think it's probably pretty good in the right deck. Maybe as a 2 of or something like that. All right, Bone Horde Dracosaur. This is a 5 mana, 5/5, first strike and flying. When at the beginning of your upkeep, beginning of your upkeep. Oh, I read that as enters the battlefield for some reason. Okay, that's much worse. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. If you exile a land, you get a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. If you exile a non-land card this way, create a treasure. All right, so it's not ETB. That's a little bit worse than I thought. So probably this is too slow. Get a dinosaur removal, but if it sticks around, it's a lot of value. But yeah, I don't see it sticking around, so probably not good enough. Oh, scratch that one. Next one, Get Lost, 1 and a white. This is a removal spell, instant, destroy target creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. Its controller creates 2 map tokens, and the map tokens are artifacts with 1 and tap and sack it, and the creature you control explores. Activate only as sorcery. So map token is a bit worse than a clue token. Clue token draws you a card. And we already have this Fateful Absence, destroy creature planeswalker, and the opponent gets a clue. So this is just seems like a straight upgrade to that, basically. So creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. So you get enchantments also. They don't have to be tapped. There's no real downside. It's instant speed, and the map tokens being significantly worse than the clue token. Like, okay, if they have creatures around, the map tokens do something. They either give them a land, or they put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. So I guess in theory they could get 2 lands off of this, and then it's better than Fateful Absence in some cases. It's just so flexible. Creature, enchantment, or planeswalker. And if you're against like a control opponent, they can't even use the map tokens half the time. So yeah, I think this is gonna be just a replacement for Fateful Absence in most cases. So, yeah, seems good. Definitely seems playable. All right, let's do a couple more, and then we're gonna wrap up. And I'll probably just have to finish the more later because there's just way too many. Skullspore Nexus is 6 green. However, the spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Think Galta from the previous Ixalan set. So you just need to put one of your big beefy boys in mono green, you know, stompy kind of thing. And this is going to be pretty cheap. So yeah, there's even like 4 mana or 3 mana creatures with 5 power. So shouldn't be that hard to make this cost 2 or 3 mana. And then whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control die, create a green fungus dinosaur creature token with base power and toughness equal to the total power of those creatures. So it's sweeper protection, basically. Whenever they get removed by Go for the Throat or something like that, you're going to get a replacement creature. And then also 2 and a tap, double target creature power till end of turn. So you can make it even bigger before it dies to get a bigger token, or just double your creature's power when you're swinging in. So it does a lot. It's pretty cheap as long as you have like a green creature deck. And sweeper protection for most things. I mean, to be fair, we have Farewell, we have Sunfall, both are exile effects. So it doesn't really stop those two. So that is a little bit sad. And maybe that makes it not good enough, but it will stop all the removal decks. So besides control, if you're facing, you know, some other aggro deck with removal, this is gonna stop their removal from really working. It's gonna double your creature's power, letting you swing in for a lot of damage. So I think in mono green Stompy, and depending on if control is the most dominant deck, then this is a good card. Next one, Stalactite Stalker. It's black, it's a 1/1, it has Menace. At the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Stalactite Stalker. Descent is ability in the set where you put cards into your graveyard. So yeah, it's not too hard with a lot of the abilities in the set to put cards into your graveyard. So it'll get +1/+1 counter. Only one a turn, but still you're growing each turn. And then it has a sacrifice ability where it becomes a removal spell equal to the creature's power. So in a black aggressive deck, you know, there's a very good chance that this is gonna grow and eventually it becomes a removal spell. It doesn't say sorcery only, so if the opponent's trying to kill this, you can sack it, remove something. Yeah, again, deck dependent, but seems like a pretty good creature. And it's got Menace, which makes it hard to deal with as well. All right, let's go ahead and stop there. There's so many more cards. As you can see, I have a million more tabs open of other cards that I think are quite good. The set itself, the power level, I would say the power level is about on par with the Wilds of Eldraine set. So, you know, pretty good. We'll probably see a couple playables from each of the colors in the new decks. There's a few archetypes that might make it work out, like Merfolk. Seems like there's a pretty good amount of Merfolk cards that are good, so that might make a new deck archetype. We also had some Merfolk in previous sets that were very good, but they had no shell, they had no home. So maybe with all that combined, we'll have a Merfolk deck in standard. Other than that, I don't see a lot of the other effects being that good. The god cards are pretty good. There's a lot of these enchantments which flip into like a better artifact or enchantment. So those seem kind of interesting. Again, I don't know if the power level is quite high enough for a lot of those cards. But we'll just have to see. And I'll try to make some decks around them and see how that turns out. Sheoldred, of course, very annoying still and kills a lot of potential good cards in the set. Basically nerfs the blue color in general because blue is all about drawing cards, but you can't draw cards when there's Sheoldred. So that is a downside. But I will say overall, I liked a lot of the blue cards in this set. So I think the power level of blue is definitely higher than Wilds of Eldraine was. And that's good for me since I like blue-black control the most. So yeah, that's my thoughts so far. I hope you are checking out the spoilers. Again, we have the early access streamer event coming up in just a little bit on the 9th and 10th, and I'll send more details about that soon. Till next time, go out there and have fun, and see ya.